I think it's a little foul to me. You know, I'm deferring to three exceptional NFL minds, and I know that. But just giving my opinion, you know, you ever heard of the smell test? That something just don't smell right. That's just how I feel. Like, you know, when Joe Flacco got demoted, y'all, I was like, okay, you know, he should be the QB3, because why would you bench him and then leave him as the QB2 when you're elevating Dylan Gabriel to the QB1 and Shedeur Sanders is right there starving and waiting for an opportunity? And so I looked at it like that, and I just said to myself, okay, but that's how it goes. You know, Joe Flacco's a veteran. You know, Kevin Stefanski, you know, knows what he's doing as a coach, etc. But then something like this happens. We're supposed to sit here and believe that Bailey Zappi is a guy that's the QB2 on this squad. Really, that's what we're doing now. I just find that to be a bit fishy. And so, you know, Dylan Gabriel obviously is your QB1. He's a guy that has earned the opportunity to do that. Mina pointed out last week accurately so. He had a better performance in the preseason than Shedeur Sanders did. I get that part. Shedeur Sanders played well, albeit against Carolina. Obviously, another game in the preseason, not so much. And I get that part too.
You know when something just doesn't smell right? That's exactly how Stephen A. Smith kicked off the segment, and man, he's not wrong. Because when Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, took that podium and said he's still working through who's backing up rookie starter Dylan Gabriel, it didn't sound like a plan. It sounded like confusion, like hesitation, like a coach who doesn't quite believe in one of his own guys. And that's where Shedeur Sanders comes in, the son of Deion Sanders, the prodigy from Colorado, the lightning rod rookie with swagger, media attention, and a story everyone's watching. Yet somehow, he's being treated like an afterthought in Cleveland. Let's break this down. Kevin Stefanski said he's thinking long and hard about roster moves, about young players, about development. But the truth? If you really believe in a young quarterback's development, you don't make him wait in silence while the whole world questions his place. And Stephen called it. This just doesn't pass the smell test. He looked at the situation. Joe Flacco demoted, Dylan Gabriel suddenly promoted to QB1, and Shedeur Sanders left hanging, and he said, really? Bailey Zapp is QB2 now? That's what we're doing. Because think about it, you've got Shedeur Sanders, a kid who showed flashes of brilliance in the preseason, especially against Carolina, showing poise and timing and that calm under pressure demeanor everyone raved about in college. But somehow, that's not enough to make him QB2? Come on. Stephen A. went off, and rightfully so. He said it's fishy. And when Stephen A. says something's fishy, you better believe there's something in the water. Now, Mina Kimes tried to bring some perspective. She said it's rare for a rookie to back up another rookie, that maybe the Browns want a veteran presence behind Gabriel.
If we're going to Pittsburgh and Dylan Gabriel gets hurt, we want an experienced quarterback to back him up. That is kind of the norm in the NFL. I mean, it's very unusual, and Dan, you know this, for a rookie to back up another rookie. All of that said, I am in agreement with Stephen A. about the sense I'm getting, which is the coaching staff doesn't believe in Shedeur Sanders. And that's their right. I do wonder, though, if organizationally they need to consider a trade or moving on, giving him a chance to end up somewhere else.
Someone like Zapp who's at least seen real NFL action. Fair point. But then she dropped the real line that hit everyone like a sledgehammer. I'm in agreement with Stephen A. The coaching staff doesn't believe in Shedeur Sanders. Let that sink in. The coaching staff believe. And when Mina Kimes says that, it's not gossip, it's insight. She went even further. She said maybe it's time for a trade. That maybe Shedeur needs to be somewhere that actually wants him, somewhere that's building a plan for him, not just keeping him around as a fifth-round project or a media lightning rod. Because from the start, Mina said, this landing spot never made sense. The Browns drafting Shedeur felt like an afterthought. Like they saw a big name on the board and said, why not? Instead of, here's our guy. And Ryan Clark didn't hold back either. He said what everyone's been thinking but too afraid to say. It's obvious Kevin Stefanski doesn't mess with Shedeur Sanders the way the public thinks he should. Ryan went straight for the jugular, saying Stefanski wasn't ready to handle the person that comes with Shedeur. The media, the spotlight, the noise, the expectations. Because Shedeur isn't just another rookie, he's Prime's son. That comes with pressure. That comes with headlines. That comes with attention that can rattle even the most stable locker room. But that's exactly why a head coach needs to have a plan. And Ryan Clark's point was brutal. Stefanski didn't. You've got to have answers ready, Ryan said. If you're figuring it out, fine, but give a reason. Don't give an excuse. And the biggest takeaway from both Mina and Ryan? If Shedeur isn't named the backup quarterback soon, it's time to part ways. Trade him. Move him. Let him breathe somewhere that actually sees him as more than a distraction. What are we even doing here, Cleveland? Are you developing Shedeur Sanders? Or burying him alive in that depth chart?
So the year it's the 1996-1997 NBA season. And I think Ryan would vaguely remember this. Kobe Bryant is a rookie in the National Basketball Association. And to the producers, put them up there because I want to see them while I'm talking to them right now. So Kobe Bryant is in his rookie season. And Kobe Bryant is making a lot of noise. He comes out. Jerry West pulls off the heist where Kobe Bryant gets drafted by Charlotte, but ultimately the draft rights to Kobe Bryant comes to the Los Angeles Lakers. He's joining Shaq Diesel and the crew and stuff like that. Kobe Bryant did not start the first 2 years pretty much. He only started like 7 games in the first 2 years of his career in the NBA. This is his rookie year, Dan Orlovsky. But he talked so much and he was so confident. And the swag that he came with is what he came with. That was when the rumors were that Shaq tried to slap the living hell out of him at Loyola Marymount or whatever because he was so disgusted with his mouth, and Kobe was telling you what he was going to be, that he was going to catch MJ, that he was going to be MJ and all of this stuff. Let me tell you what happened. You remember that game when Kobe Bryant shot those air balls against Utah in the postseason? That was his rookie year when Shaq walked over and wrapped his arms around him. One of the reasons that happened, Dan, was because Del Harris, who is a very good man.
Then Stephen A. did what Stephen does best. He took us on a trip back in time. The NBA, a young Kobe Bryant steps onto the stage. Confident, but cocky even. And according to Stephen A., that confidence rubbed some veterans the wrong way. Coach Del Harris, tired of Kobe's mouth, threw him to the wolves in overtime of a playoff game against Karl Malone and John Stockton's Utah Jazz. And Kobe? He shot air balls. Brutal ones. But here's the thing. That moment didn't break him. It made him. Stephen A. used that story as a mirror, saying he fears Shedeur might be facing the same kind of setup. That when a coach doesn't buy into you, when they see your swagger, your confidence, your father's fame, sometimes they'll humble you. They'll keep you on the bench. They'll make you earn every snap, even when you've already proven you deserve more. It's a power move. It's psychological. And Stephen A. wasn't saying Stefanski's a villain, but he's saying don't put it past the NFL machine to humble the loud ones. That's why he said, when I see storylines like this unfolding, I get suspicious. And who can blame him? The Browns have made every quarterback situation messy for years. Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson. And now, even in the rookie era, they're repeating history. So here's the real question, and this one's for you watching right now. Are the Browns protecting Shedeur Sanders? Or are they punishing him for who he is? Because the energy feels off. The silence from the coaching staff feels intentional. And when fans in Cleveland, and even players like Myles Garrett, are quietly saying they want to see this kid play, but the organization won't even name him the backup, you start to wonder what's really going on behind closed doors. This ain't just football anymore. It's politics. It's ego. It's image control. And Mina, Dan, and Ryan all agreed on one more thing. The Browns created this mess themselves. Dan Orlovsky broke it down. He said the Browns made the mistake of drafting 2 quarterbacks in the same year. You can't just collect QBs like data points and hope one pans out. It's not math, it's chemistry. It's leadership. He compared it to the RG3 and Kirk Cousins situation in Washington. Remember that? When every practice, every throw, every drill turned into a comparison war. That's what's happening right now in Cleveland. 2 rookies fighting for validation instead of development. And that's not how you build a franchise. That's how you break one. Dan pointed out something everyone missed. Why is Bailey Zappe even still there? If you're serious about developing rookies, why are you giving precious reps to a veteran journeyman? Every snap Zap takes is one Shedeur or Gabriel loses. It's a fair question, and it exposes a deeper issue. Because if Shedeur's not even getting meaningful reps, then how can he prove himself? How can he climb the depth chart? He can't. And maybe that's the point. They're not giving him a chance. They're giving him a message. And by the time the segment wrapped, even Stephen A. had to admit, the Browns fan base deserves answers. The players want clarity. Everyone in that locker room knows what's up, but nobody's saying it. Because if this continues, Stephen A. said, eventually the public's going to say the quiet part out loud. The coaches must really think he can't play. And once that narrative starts, it's almost impossible to shake. That's where Shedeur Sanders stands today, in limbo. Not because of talent, but because of perception. And that's the cruel reality of the NFL. Perception becomes prophecy. Once the media starts whispering doubts, once fans begin echoing them on social media, it starts to seep into locker rooms, front offices, even coaching meetings. Because that's what this feels like. Politics. Not football. Not competition. Just a clash of egos and expectations inside a franchise that's supposed to be unified. Look, nobody's saying Shedeur should be handed the job. He doesn't want that. He's never wanted that. The man's father raised him to fight for every inch. But when the fight itself feels rigged, when the snaps are already predetermined before the whistle even blows, that's not development, that's damage. And you can see it in Shedeur's face during practice. Composed. But that quiet burn behind the eyes? It's there. It's the same look we saw back in Boulder, when the critics said Colorado wouldn't win 3 games. The same look when he threw for over 500 yards in his debut, silencing every analyst in one afternoon. This isn't about proving talent anymore. It's about proving respect. Because respect is earned, but in Cleveland right now, it feels like it's being rationed. Insiders close to the team say there's a growing divide between the veterans and the coaching staff. One side believes Shedeur is the future. The other insists the rookie has to wait his turn. But here's the thing. Waiting your turn only works if the guy in front of you is performing. And Dillon Gabriel, for all his leadership talk, hasn't exactly been lighting up the field. Misreads. Hesitant throws. Reporters have been polite about it, adjusting to the system, they say. But fans aren't fooled. They see the hesitation. They see the indecision. Meanwhile, Shedeur's out there dropping dimes on scout reps like it's a 7-on-7 highlight reel. Receivers talk about how the ball just feels different when it leaves his hand. It's crisp, intentional, quarterback artistry in motion. So what's really happening here? Cleveland doesn't have a quarterback problem. They have an identity problem. They can't decide if they want to rebuild or reload. If they want leadership or loyalty. And caught in the middle of that confusion is Shedeur Sanders, the one player who's already shown both. When you look at his story, it's almost poetic. A kid who's been doubted every step of the way. He's only there because of his dad. He can't read NFL defenses. He's not built for this level. Yet, every time those doubts surface, Shedeur erases them with performances that redefine expectations. But right now, he's being asked to do something impossible, prove himself without opportunity. And that's not football. That's politics disguised as competition. The Browns fan base feels it too. Every tweet, every post, every podcast from the Dog Pound is asking the same question. When do we see Shedeur? They're not calling for change out of impatience. They're calling for fairness. Because you can't preach, the best player plays, and then keep the best player on the sidelines. Even the veterans are noticing. One unnamed receiver told The Athletic, "It's hard to ignore the energy shift when 2 comes in. You feel it. You just do." And that's what great players do. They shift energy. They command attention without even trying. So when a player like that gets suppressed, when his reps get trimmed for reasons that have nothing to do with performance, it sends a message to the entire locker room. A message that says, talent doesn't matter, politics do. And if there's one thing that kills locker rooms faster than losing, it's that. Now, nobody's asking Kevin Stefanski to crown Shedeur the starter tomorrow. But if this team truly believes in meritocracy, in letting the best man win, then let him compete. Because every day he doesn't, the story grows louder. Every day he's silent, the noise fills the void. And make no mistake, that noise is spreading. From ESPN panels to social media threads, to radio hosts in Cleveland screaming at 6 a.m., everyone's picking a side. And if the Browns don't handle this soon, the fans will make that choice for them. And as this story unfolds, one thing's for certain, Shedeur Sanders isn't backing down. Not from the critics, not from the politics, not from the pressure. Because when the moment comes, and the lights hit the field, talent always tells the truth. If you believe in that truth, if you believe in Shedeur's rise, in the fight for fairness, and in the fire that fuels the future, then make sure you're here for every chapter. Hit that like button, drop a comment for your thoughts on this quarterback battle, and subscribe to Gridiron Insights, because this story isn't over. It's just getting started.